everyone and welcome back to the skirt series. Today we are creating a box pleated skirt inspired by the photo you see in the video. Before I start creating this skirt, I want to show you how a box pleat is created in Claw 3D by a small demo. As you see, I have made a small rectangle and created box pleat underneath. As you see, the box pleated skirt have folded edge meeting each other inside of the fabric, and the flat part is outside. So as you see, if we reverse the fabric, we have an inverted pleat. So let's practice making these pleats. For that, first I make a rectangle, and suppose this will be our waistband. I just put 20 centimeters for the width and 3 centimeters for the height. And imagine this will be our waistband, and we want to add 2 pleats which will cover it, which will cover the whole width of it, like the skirt we saw in the image. So you see the width is 20 centimeters, and if we want to make a 2 box pleat, each will be 10 centimeters wide. So the center of the pleat should be on the half of this 10 centimeters, so 5 cm from each end of the waistband. So the second step is to create the bigger rectangle, but first I make it the same width of our rectangle, width of 20 and height of 15. Then I mark 5 centimeters on each end of the rectangle. As I mentioned, the center of the pleat should be 5 centimeters, which is the half of our total pleat. Then I pick the pleat tool and click on the point I have created and hold shift so that I come straight down. Click on the other end. Then you select the side you wanna pleat, and then this box will appear. You choose the box pleat option and put 5 cm, which is half of our pleat width, at both start and end. And for the angle, make the direction reverse. But you can always check the angles. For the box pleat, the order of angles should be 360, 0, 0, 360. So make sure you are checking all of these, because that will give you a box pleat. If you make it reverse, you'll end up with inverted pleat. So after you gave all the angles, you check all the angles, make sure all of them have the full rendering on and the strength of 10. I'm doing it again for the other pleat. As you see, I'm giving 5 cm on both ends and checking the angle. You see these angles are not correct, so I'm fixing them. The first should be 30-60, next 0, the next 0 again, and the last should be 30-60. And for the fold strength, for now I give 10. Later you can increase the fold strength, but for now I give 10. Then I strengthen the piece. Always when you make pleats, make sure you are strengthening your piece. And for the sewing, you can sew it with the pleat sewing tool, but just know that if you had sewn this piece before with a normal sewing tool, this could be done and you didn't need to sew it again. So after simulation, you see our pleats are sewn and the box pleat is created. So just to show you how our pleat would be if the angles were the opposite, I can copy this piece and just change the angle so that they are opposite, and we'll see how it will show up. So I'll change the first one to 0 instead of 360, and the next 360, next 360, and the last 0. Making sure all of them have full strength on, and then reset the piece to 2D arrangement. And when you simulate, you see you will have inverted pleat, which is the exact opposite of our box pleat. Okay, now that you know how to make a box pleats, it will be easier for us to calculate the width of the pleat and make them for our skirt. So going back to our skirt, for the basic pattern, I recommend using our flared skirt or half circle skirt for this style, because it is easier to create the pleats when we don't have any dart in our pattern or darts are closed. So either use our half circle skirt, which we talked about in episode 7, or use the flared skirt in which we have closed the dart completely. I can put a link in the description for those episodes. For this tutorial, I have used a half circle skirt, which I'll bring and start pattern making. Okay, this is our half circle skirt, and I have brought a new avatar, size 10. And first thing I do, I make the pieces half, because it is easier if we do pattern making in symmetrical pieces. I draw a vertical line at center front and center back, and then cut them, remove one side of the pattern. And for the waistband, it's 5 cm wide, and I want to make it a little bit shorter, 4 cm. I reduce the height, and as you see, the waist measurement is similar at front and back, so we can have same pattern for a waistband at front and back. So I just cut a quarter of the current waistband, and then I can make symmetrical pieces out of this piece. And if you remember, we had given 1 cm ease. We usually give 1 cm ease for our skirt waistband, but for the pleated skirt, because there is so much volume when you fold the fabric, it is better to give a little bit more ease. So it is better to give about 1.5 to 2 cm ease for this skirt. So since previously we had added 1 cm, I'm just adding half a centimeter to this width, because it is only a quarter of the waistband. And of course, if when we make the symmetrical piece at front and back, 1 cm will be added to the whole waistband. So I have done that. I added half a centimeter to the waist width. Then I right click on the center front line and make a symmetrical piece. This is our front waistband. Then we can just make a copy of this piece, because as I said, waist measurement was similar at front and back, and name it center back. This will be our back waistband. So as you see, we will have 2 side seam on our waistband. Then later you can add a zipper to left side of your waistband. Okay, so we do the same thing with the front and back panel. We right click on center front and center back line and create symmetrical piece with sewing. Then we can start sewing the pattern. I first freeze my skirt panels and sew the waistband part first by turning on arrangement points, putting waistbands on the correct position, and then I just sew the ends of waistband pieces together. Then we press simulation. Waistband sits a bit low, so as you know, to keep the waistband in a right position, we always add elastic to upper edge of waistband with a ratio of 100 so that it won't stretch out. We change the particle distance of waistband to 5, and also add bonding to our waist. And then we will sew the waistband to skirt panels, unfreeze the panels, and right click, use the superimpose side option so that the skirt goes into the right position, and simulate. I'll do the same thing for the back. Last thing, I sew the side seam together. And as you see, waist is sitting a bit low because we haven't added real fabric yet, and we added a little bit more ease to it. So to keep it in place, I'm using attached to the measurements on avatar. First, with the basic circumference tool, I draw a line around the waist of avatar. Make sure you hold shift while doing that so that your line is straight. Then with the attached to measuring tape tool, I'm attaching the upper edge of our waist to the measurement line we have just created. Then if you press simulate, waist will sit where you want it to be. So our sewing is done, and I see the skirt is long comparing to our image. So I will reduce the length of our skirt by 10 cm. Just click on the bottom edge of front and back, right click, and choose the and select the offset pattern outline by 10 cm. Okay, now the length is good and we can start creating our box pleat. The first thing you do is that check the waist measurement that you have, which is 19.6. Don't use the waistband because we have given ease to the waistband. We are using the upper edge of our waist to calculate the pleat depth. So 19.6, and we want to create 2 box pleat on each side of front and each side of back. Divided by 2, it gives us 9.8, and as we said, we need to make the center of the pleat, and center of the pleat will be half of this measurement. So 9.8 divided by 2 gives us 4.9. I'll split this point at my front, one side of the front, and it will be done on the other side as well because the pieces are symmetrical. For the bottom, we just measure the bottom edge and divide it by 4 and split those numbers. Because if you think for the waist measurement, we actually divided waist by 4 and split the points at upper edge of our waist. So we can do the same for the bottom. Split 1/4 of hem from the beginning and end. So now with the pleat tool, we click on those points. First the waist point, then the bottom point, and then choose the side you wanna have the pleat on. I choose the side near the center front. And then I give the 4.9 to top and bottom, and reverse the direction. I try to use the reverse direction option, but I will always double check the angle to make sure the order is 360, 0, 0, 360. Now for the next pleats, I try to give 4.9, but it doesn't let me because it's very close to the other pleat, and I will give 4.8 because it doesn't allow me to give 4.9. Okay, I check the angles and make sure fold rendering is on, and the fold strength is at 10. Okay, our front panel is done, and as I said previously, if you have sewn your skirt to your waistband, no need to sew it again, it will be done automatically. Now let's bring our 3D window, and I right click on front panel, reset 2D arrangement. I will strengthen the piece, right click, strengthen. And when you press simulate, you see that your pleats are made nicely, and you can unstrengthen the piece now or start making the back pattern and apply your fabric. So next I will apply the same process for the back. Since the process is exactly same as front, you can follow the video and do it the same way. Okay, after sewing the back panel, we can unstrengthen the pieces and add the actual fabric. For the fabric, I'm using cotton poplin, which is a blend of cotton and polyester. Poplin is lightweight, firm, and has a smooth surface, and the polyester content helps the pleats stay crisp, while the cotton gives the skirt a soft, natural drape. So we are adding our fabric, and I will also reduce the particle distance to 10 for our skirt. It will help the pleats to have better shape. For the waistband, I will make the layers double by right click on the piece and layer clone under. So our waistband will have 2 layers. I'd like to add print to this fabric, but before that I need to correct my grain line, because if you remember when we made the half circle skirt, we made the grain line bias. Now I wanna change it back to normal grain line. So I pick the grain line and make it aligned with our center front and center back. So as you see, our pattern is very wide. I don't think any fabric has this kind of width, so you cannot you cannot cut this fabric on normal grain unless you have seams on it. So I would recommend cutting it on the opposite direction. Just turn the grain line by 90 degrees if needed to cut it from the fabric. Now I can add my print to my fabric, and if you want to change your print, you can go to property editor and open texture and click on the print, and you can change the dimension of roses as you see here in the image. Okay, apply and close. You can also change the texture or position of your print on 3D window with edit texture tool. Okay, our skirt is done. Once again I check the fit to make sure everything is good. We can turn on the grid and check that to see if the hemline is balanced. It should be at same level at front and back, and right and left, and the volume should be distributed evenly around the body. Okay, our skirt is done. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and see you next Saturday with more skirt tutorials.